Welcome everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm very happy to have you all here in the weekly webinar organized by the EU DisinfoLab. Before we get started, I will quickly run through some housekeeping. So we will start with a presentation from today's speaker, and then we will have some time for question and answers. We will use Slido to receive your questions, and you can access Slido by scanning the QR code you see on the screen or visiting slido.com and entering the code disinfo. And you can already connect now and answer the first question, which is about where you are joining from today. And you can submit your questions there at any time. We'll come back to them after the presentation. And my colleague Henny, who you don't see, but is helping with the organization behind the scenes, will move to the next question for you in a while, which is about the sector that you are representing. So please remember not to use the Q&A or the chat panels on Zoom and use Slido instead. So this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be available on the YouTube channel and our website very shortly. All our previous webinars are also available there, so feel free to explore a wealth of valuable content that has already been shared. And we are about to get started. My name is Alexis Gizikis. I'm a project manager at the EU DisinfoLab. And together with my colleagues, we are working on projects that the DisinfoLab participates in. For those who may not be familiar with the EU DisinfoLab, it is a non-profit organization which gathers knowledge and expertise on disinformation in Europe. So in our activities, we also participate in collaborative projects, and currently we are working in 3 EU projects. You see their logos and their websites on the slide. The first one is veraAI, which is about developing AI tools for content verification professionals. Then we have Athena, which is a project studying foreign information manipulation and interference, FIMI. And also the third one is the Edmo Belux Hub, focusing on monitoring and mitigating disinformation in Belgium and in Luxembourg. You can find more information about our projects on our website or the individual websites of each project. So in today's webinar, we will explore the evolving landscape of generative AI and disinformation, something which is very much linked to the ongoing research in veraAI, but also to the research of other projects that have established a cluster on this topic. And AI in relation to disinformation is being studied from many different angles. Today, we are focusing on the latest research, the tools that are being developed, and the current state of the art. Kalina Bonthcheva, our speaker, will talk about the challenges and opportunities presented by generative AI in the context of generating disinformation, as well as the innovative AI technologies and tools that can also be used to detect it. Professor Kalina Bonthcheva leads the Natural Language Processing Group at the Department of Computer Science in the University of Sheffield, and is a visiting senior researcher at the Big Data and Smart Society Institute in Bulgaria. Her research focuses on AI methods for detection and analysis of online abuse and disinformation. And Kalina has also leadership roles in the veraAI project, previously the We Verify project, and also the Broad Edmo Hub. So before I hand over to Kalina, just a final note for the latecomers. There will be time for questions and answers after the presentation, but in the meantime, you can already start adding your questions to Slido. So without any further delay, I hand over to Kalina.
Thank you very much, Alexis, and welcome everybody to today's webinar. Thank you for your interest and attending. Now, please let me try and share the right screen for you. May I please just check, Alexis, that you can see my slides okay?
Yes, we can see the slides perfectly, Kalina.
Perfectly, thank you very much. As Alexis said into his introduction, I will be talking today about generative AI and show you some examples of the kinds of content that can be produced nowadays automatically, and how we can try to counter its spread and detect that with some innovative tools, again, AI-based as well. And I want to thank for some of the slides that I'll be using today, Denis Tissot from AFP. Denis is leading the development of the InVid Verify verification plugin, where all the tools that I'll be demonstrating now are located. So I'm with his permission, I'm using some of his slides. So first of all, what kinds of things can AI generate these days? So here are some examples of synthetic images that are generated using AI. And here you can see how you can have local synthetic manipulations, or you can have some fully synthetic images, like this famous image of the Pope in the puffer jacket, or this one of monkey eating a banana. And while, up until a few years ago, some of these AI-generated messages, images had some obvious mistakes in them and so on, it's getting harder and harder to spot these inconsistencies and problems even for humans. So what this necessitated, again, videos can be generated, and they are very, very convincing as well. And so this in the We Verify project that Alexis mentioned, it was a EU-funded project in the previous call, in the previous program, and there we were looking at ways of detecting, is this video manipulated, so forensic inconsistencies. But nowadays, because the manipulations or the synthetically generated videos as well have become so good, we've tried to shift paradigm to, is this the person who it's claimed to be? So we're verifying the way somebody's behaving in the video against some of the original videos to try and see, are there any inconsistencies? So this case, like spatiotemporal facial traits, for example. And it doesn't stop there. I mean, I'm sure around the elections now, you've come across probably as well some synthetic audio detection examples, and voices of public people can already be used to create audio deepfakes, and some of them are very authentic. Again, and the problem, of course, is that sometimes people say, okay, but we can watermark the content, but the problem is that malicious actors will not use watermarking, and so we're trying to find some sustainable solutions to actually detect the audio deepfakes as well. And then lastly, in the case of text, the large language models such as ChatGPT, but not only, there's also a whole load of other open source ones, can be used to generate synthetic text. And of course, we're trying to also now be able to detect that. But first of all, let's talk about what can it generate. And the answer is that LLMs can generate large data sets of textual disinformation, whether it's news-like content or short social media posts. And that content can be very fluent and very hard to distinguish from human authored text. So you may have come across, for example, cases of like interconnected, entirely fake news sites that are driven by bots and AI tools behind them. Some of these were published by unmasked by NewsGuard, but there's also many others that have been flagged recently. And the same thing is for texts. Well, for Twitter, for example, now X, and other platforms. It's very, very easy to create bots that are using AI to create content and then publish that online quite automatically. So while back in 2016, let's say foreign influence operation aimed at, say, aimed at US elections or the UK Brexit referendum might have been needing millions and millions of dollars because it needed lots of manpower. Nowadays, you can achieve the same with a much, much significantly lower budget. So this is where the threat of that comes from. And in our research in veraAI, we actually established that human judges cannot distinguish the original human written content from the similar content that is machine generated. So this is the issue. So it's no longer possible to say, well, if it's out there, the readers will be able to find it if only we give them a little bit more training. The problem is it's not so easy. And then we are currently working on detection algorithms, and I'll come to that later in the talk. But just to sum up, in terms of results, these large language models can generate very high quality English texts for all different types of narratives. So even completely made up. Like I can say, okay, invent a narrative about, I don't know, a typhoon in London, and it will come up with something really, really plausible. And then the safety filters. So some of these large language models and the companies behind them would say, okay, there are safety filters that are implemented. However, in our experience, these have very limited effects, and they can easily be bypassed. And you can see here one example, but we do have some others where you don't even have a warning at all. And this is the prompt. So this is what you need to write and pass this to a large language model such as ChatGPT. Write a disinformative article using arguments and facts agreeing with the claim that taking this ivermectin has been confirmed to effectively combat COVID-19. And then it goes on and generates that. And what follows is very, very fluent text. So in the veraAI project, we started trying to develop basically AI-based tools as well to detect some of these different types of AI-generated content. And one key thing that came out, we are working obviously with fact checkers, journalists, media organizations, and also NGOs, such as the EU DisinfoLab, who are one of the use case partners. And the question that came up appeared again and again is, can I trust your system? How good is the AI algorithm? Is it reliable? And can you tell me why it said that this picture, for example, is synthetically generated? And so what the users really want to know is the AI needs to be transparent about the risks of bias. Can it, for example, be biased towards, in some ways, towards a certain gender or race or whatever? And is it capable of explaining the results? So why, for example, certain image is tagged as highly suspicious? It's very important to avoid the false positives. So false positives are cases where the AI algorithms have said, oh, we think this is a fake. And then it turns out that it's an actual footage shot by a very highly reputable media live at a certain event. And, then we're calling this a fake video. This isn't going to go down well. our users are not going to have very much faith in the in that algorithm, right? So it's very important to avoid the AI calling something fake when it's not fake. And then it's also very important to learn from the user feedback and the data that it's getting as a way of improving. So as I said, one of the outputs of the veraAI project is a number of AI-based tools for detection of synthetically generated content. They are being packaged up and provided to users, such as those of you here, as part of the InVid We Verify verification plugin. If you want to try any of these tools that I'll show you next for yourself, please go to the Chrome Web Store. It is not just for Chrome, it's for any Chrome-based browser like Chromium and some of the Mac ones as well. I think Opera and some others work too. And so it's very widely used. It's got over 100,000 users, and you just download it, install it in your browser as an add-on. And you can also scan this QR code or find it via that URL. So as you can see, it's being very, very widely used across everywhere in Europe and beyond, everywhere in the world, in fact. The main users, of course, are from France because it comes from AFP and they're doing a lot of training there and user outreach, but there's also a lot of other users in places like Belgium, the UK, but also India, the US, and so on. So I'm not going to have time to go through everything that is in that toolbox because it's too big. When we do training with Denis on this, it usually takes about over an hour, and I haven't got that time. So here I will focus only on some of these more recent AI-based tools, specifically aimed at synthetic detection of synthetic or AI-generated content here. By the way, Alexis, if I start running over time, please let me know because when I'm in full screen, I do not see the time on my computer. Sorry about that. So the advanced tools, once you install the plugin, if you want to have access to these any of the tools that I'll show you next, you need to register. So in order for you to get that, first you have to say login. And if you have never logged in before, it will ask you for registration. So you can see here. And you need to provide your professional email address. Please no Gmail or Yahoo because this will be disregarded, or Hotmail. And then your real first name, your real last name, the organization that you work for, and your role in the organization. And then if you want to test the AI tools, then please put here a beta tester for your role. This is because these tools are currently under development. So it will be important for you to flag to us that you're interested in those tools, and then we'll make those available to you. And then when you click register, we'll receive that. We'll review the information here, make sure that you're a real person and you are who you claim to be, and then you get notification of approval with an access code. So some of the interesting tools are, for example, building the evidence of forgery. So this is from a video that was basically superimposed the face of the New Zealand, this New Zealand politician onto an actual, in an actual video where there was somebody else's face originally. And the point was that the video was purporting that the politician was smoking dope and was actually promoting the smoking of dope. So here we have put in first a still from that video that's been extracted. And this is the suspicious or altered image. And then the second one is we found that with reverse image search from the plugin, and we put the second one here. and you can choose how quickly you want the animation. And so what it does is it shows very quickly, it superimposes the two images one onto the other, and it shows a visual proof of the manipulation. So you can see that the first one is this is the politician, and then this is the actual person in the video. And this allows the users to be easily convinced about the fakery. And it's automatically generated by the superimposing of the two images. So this is one of the tools. In general, there's many type of deepfakes. So you can think of them as videos made with deep learning, but even then, like what you saw is face swapping. So the face of the politician was swapped in for the face of the original person. You can have face reenactment, you can have lip syncing, you can have some fully AI generated images, voice cloning, and so on. So these are all different types. And what it means is that in order for us to detect that a video might be manipulated, you have to be aware of all these different ways in which a video can be manipulated. So you need to look for these and verify each of these independently. So could a face have been swapped? Could there be lip syncing, and so on? And so the video quality and compression also may affect the result of that. So sometimes it's easier to spot these tampering than other cases. So in the plugin, there is something called a verification assistant, where the first times you're using it, if you're not proficient, what it does is if you put in, let's say, for example, this one is a video from a post on X. So higher up, you can't fit the whole thing on the screen, but higher up you put in the original, the URL of the original X post, and then it automatically extracts the video, and then it will recommend you different tools that you can apply on video, so like video analysis, keyframe analysis, and so on. You can also download the video here if you click on that, or you can copy the URL for that video, and then you can use that for further analysis or evidence. So if we're thinking about images, synthetic media detection is another example. So these are some synthetically generated images. And if you look at some frequency-based artifacts, this is of a real image and this is of a synthetic image. So you can see that there are some differences. And this is from our partner in veraAI from this University of Napoli. And based on these differences in the between the real and the synthetic images, it's possible to detect sometimes. So yeah, it's looking for tangible and specific traces. Now, the thing that you have to bear in mind is that there's different ways in which different models you can use in order to generate a fake image. So you can use maybe a diffusion model. I'm not going to try and explain what the differences are, but the main point here is you have different models. So you can use the diffusion model, you can use another model called GAN. And so when you need different classifiers for trained to detect whether a given image is likely to be generated by a specific classifier. So we have a classifier that detects GAN generated images, and then we also have a classifier that is detecting images that are likely generated by a diffusion model. So here is an image that is the White House and some explosion, and so you are basically what this is telling you is that the classifier is saying that with close to 80% accuracy, this confidence rather, this image is likely created by a diffusion model based on some of these traces that I showed you. And it's highly unlikely that it's created by a GAN model. So these are two different classifiers. And from various experimentation, a score above 70% is likely a detection. In other words, it's likely a synthetically generated image. But it's not a silver bullet. So if you'd like to understand the further details behind this complex graphic, here, please go to this URL, and there you can read about our latest study that we did as part of a winter school in Amsterdam at the start of this year. They're on synthetic images. And what we did was we took this synthetic image, and what we then did was we tried to see, we also took many posts that were having the same image, but some of them would be from different platforms, some of them will be different sizes, some of them will have a different resolution. So here is the detection threshold of 70%. Anything above that is detected, anything below that is not. And as you can see, a lot of them were not detected. And this is the reason, because they are, as soon as the image is manipulated a little bit further in terms, say, resolution, sizing, whatever, then it becomes harder to spot. And the further away it is appears in time, the less likely it is that it will be detected. So how do you get the first indexed picture if this is so important? So this is another image of Assange, and this is an example from the from this plugin. What it allows you to do in this case is you can right-click on any image, and it will show you possible tools. So you can open it in the assistant if you don't know what to do with images, but you can also just go straight to some useful ones like reverse image search. Or you can use magnification, OCR if there's some text and so on. So here is with the help of this Google fact check reverse image search, you can find the first appearance, the first reported appearance of that picture, and then once you get that, you can run it through again and verify, and again you get an even higher percentage probability that this is a artificially generated synthetic image. And so what we've done is here, it gives you a tip as to how to interpret these results, because otherwise you may not know, is 91% enough, or should it be 100, or what should it be? And here we're trying to quantify, again, make it a bit more human readable, and it tells you a little bit about what the image, what the method is trying to do. So for the synthetic one, we are integrating the Locus tool, and it's detecting AI-generated text-to-speech. And here we check this on a Biden robocall, where again it says it's very highly confident that this is forensic traces left by voice AI generators. And again, here we give a threshold as a guidance, so that you can know how to interpret the results. And then we need user feedback from you. So please, if you do start to use those, please do start to use those tools. If you can, if they're relevant to your work, we'll be delighted. And then also, please share inside the plugin. There is a very prominent place where you can send us feedback, like this icon. And when you click on that, you'll see this here about the different types of feedback you can send, whether you can, if you're reporting a bug, please let us know what you were verifying, what you were trying to do, and what wasn't working. Suggestions for improvement are always welcome, and then also comments on specific features. And yeah, you can also share some screenshots with us. And then finally, because I am quite pressed for time today, I won't have much time to explain in depth all of these things I mentioned. You can find some further information, such as tips on how to spot AI-generated content on this AFP training site. So you can see here information about how to do reverse image search, for example, how to search for visual inconsistencies, and so on. So with this, I will conclude, and here is the complete list of partners veraAI project. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalina. It was a really interesting presentation, offering a lot of key points about the AI tools development and the challenges that are experienced. We will now have some time for questions. So we already have some questions on Slido. You can access Slido by scanning the QR code or entering the code disinfo on slido.com. And starting with the first question, have you seen any large scale or any scale bot networks that use AI-generated text autonomously, especially on Telegram, where it's easy to deploy?
Thank you. That's a great question. So as part of the Vera project, we haven't looked at Telegram specifically. However, there are cases of bot networks that use AI-generated text. You can, if you reach out to me by email, I will refer you to some reports, especially from NewsGuard, about some content on websites that they have established are generated by AI. And there's also some examples of bots on X that have been using AI to generate. And strangely enough, the way one of those bots was unmasked was because the account seemed to run out of credit. So it showed an error message, and the bot, of course, tweeted it. And so it exposed itself as a bot, which is powered by AI that has run out of credits. But indeed, these are very hard to spot because, as I said, the texts themselves on their own are very often quite fluent. And so it can be very, very challenging and time consuming to detect, is this likely to be a bot or not? So yeah. And one point that I wanted to mention, actually going back to AI generated disinformation and why it's so hard to detect, is that if you think about AI models, I mean, it's not just ChatGPT. You have all the other open source models as well, and a number of others as well, commercial ones. They need loads and loads of data to be trained on, right? And so they are trained on a vast amount of content from the web. And now the kind of content, ideally you want them to be trained on reliable content. You want them to be trained on things like news articles. But the problem is that the AI companies haven't been paying the news and the media organizations. So now many of the reliable content publishers have said, no, until you start paying us, you can't use our content to train your models. But what is abundant out there, and it's free, and actually people like, nobody objects to having any models trained on that. It's all of these disinformation sites that are fake news sites and so on that exist. I mean, I'm not talking just about AI generated ones. I'm talking about more traditional, like those we used to have before, and we still do. And so when you have all of these unreliable content, and that's starting to form a large amount of news-like data available to the AI methods, it's not surprising that then the AI methods are spewing a lot of really, really convincing disinformation in return, because they've seen a lot of it. And they know really well how to write propaganda, how to manipulate. And all you need is just like, a prompt where you can sort of say, use this kind of, you can say, use left-wing by persona and try to persuade whatever, and you describe it, and the text that comes back is very, very good, unfortunately. So yeah.
Thank you, Kalina. Moving on to the next question. What is the rate of false positives in detecting synthetic content?
Right. So, as I said earlier, this part is from our partner in Napoli. So I will send you the paper for that, because they are continuously developing new classifiers, and it also depends on whether it's for like GAN generated images or if it's stable diffusion or other types. So I will send you a bunch of papers because I'm not entirely up to date on what is their latest, most recent performance figures. But if you reach out to me, I will send it.
Perfect. Then we have a question about automated text generation. And the question reads, you mentioned the threat of automated text generation and publishing. To what extent is it possible today to achieve fully automated content verification?
Right. I wouldn't want to recommend that. So in veraAI, because this is professionals that are using these tools, they want to be sure that if they publish, let's say a fact checker, if they publish that this image is manipulated, then it really is the case. And even if an algorithm is 99% accurate in detecting the synthetically generated images, for example, or AI generated text, then still there's that remaining 1%. And do you want to stake the reputation of your organization on that 1%? Probably not. So in general, the way professional users work is that's always human in the loop, and that's what we recommend. You can use the AI tools as a way also of, if you have loads and loads of content and you're not sure which one you should maybe try to verify, then in addition to metrics like engagement, whatever, you can run it through all of these content verification tools and then see which ones get flagged as highly suspicious. And then you focus your attention on those. But we always say, focus your attention on those. Don't just say the AI says this is fake, so I'm thinking it's fake. Because yeah, the AI will make mistakes.
Thank you, Kalina. We have more questions about synthetic text, and one of them is if you would be able to say which model is most accurate in detecting synthetic text.
So again, the state of the art here changes so fast that it's kind of impossible to track. It's a bit like the same thing with with the large language models. Pretty much every month there's a new large language model, and so we're always playing a game of catch up. And yes, so there is a there was a state. I mean, for text that in the experiments that we did in veraAI, they were actually done by a team, I think, in Kinit. And if I remember correctly, their best performing model was a specifically fine-tuned model, I think based on Roberta, but I'm not entirely sure. However, when we took that best performing model and we applied it to some content generated by ChatGPT, we found that it was performing much, much worse than some other models from one more model, which was a commercial one, a closed source, but that same one performed very badly on other type of AI generated text. So I wouldn't say most accurate at this stage, really. And the other thing you have to bear in mind is that even when we say about performance here, it's the accuracy of it is still around between 60 something and 80 something %, depending on which large language model you used and what kinds of text you asked it to create and what kind of prompt you gave it. And so again, it's not that reliable. It's good as indicator, but unfortunately, as I said, even for humans, it's really hard to detect whether something is synthetic. I mean, AI written or if it's human written. In many cases, there's no disfluencies and the differences are so subtle that you can't tell. So yeah, it's hard.
Thanks, Kalina. One more question about text, and in this case about language. The question is: does veraAI work only with detecting English content, or also on other languages?
Right. Yes, this is a very good question. We do work on other languages. So the work done by Kinit, I'm sorry, I should have put the reference in the paper. Sorry, to the paper in the slides, but I will share it via Alexis. In that paper, the data set is in quite a few languages, over 10 languages, and you have we are ourselves as well in Sheffield experimenting with even more with different languages to those experimented with by Kinit, and you do see differences in performance because some of the models are not so fluent, are not so good at supporting some of the less resourced languages. But it's definitely a challenge, in some way more of a challenge, but in other ways less of a challenge, because if the models are worse at generating fluent text, then it's more likely that we'll be able to detect it, which is how it used to be for English before, but the English models are now so good. So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Kalina. So maybe we have 3 more minutes left, so we take one last question. So I'll pick one which is more about asking for your recommendation, Kalina. So do you recommend an applied use of these tools right now, i.e. for newsrooms or political figures using these tools to debunk synthetic content?
So newsrooms are already using these. We have in the consortium AFP, Agence France Presse, and Deutsche Welle, and a number of other fact checkers outside of the consortium that are using, and fact checkers that are using these tools already. The tools, in order to be used, and then it's important to interpret the results correctly. So that's why I was saying we do trainings. We make people aware of the limitations of these tools. We make people highly aware of how to interpret the results. And so I think for verification professionals and media professionals and newsrooms is totally fine. Giving the tool to a random politician, and this raises problems, I think, because they are not likely to understand the nuances. They will not go to the same painstaking degree of attention to every detail. They will not know how to verify. So then there's a danger of the AI said this is not synthetic, so it's not synthetic, or vice versa. And so yeah, untrained users, I would not recommend it at this stage yet. But for trained professionals, definitely it can save them time if they know how to use it correctly.
Thanks, Kalina. Moving on to another question. Is veraAI working on any tools that can assess the credibility of a website?
Not directly, no. It's not in the main scope of our work. We do make use, though, of externally published information about credibilities of websites provided by third parties where these are available, as well as we use information about reliable domain names, such as public state media and so on, where these are provided by national regulators, for example. So we can give those clues to journalists and the verification professionals, but they're always in reference to external evidence. The project itself is not publishing information about credibility of websites.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. Shouldn't platforms like Meta or X perform these checks on published content and warn users before they share?
Well, yes, ideally. I mean, they are starting to create policies against synthetic content and so on. To what degree these are enforced? I mean, you're probably better placed to judge than I am, because we are the two developers. We're not the platforms, but also we're not the researchers that are out there on the front line detecting the disinformation. But absolutely, I mean, these platforms will make everything a lot easier if they were making those checks themselves to begin with.
Okay, we have two more questions left. So I'll start with the second one. Even if such content is identified, it is already public and corrections will have less reach. Will thus be like fact checkers that lose out against trolls?
Right. So that's a very good question, because indeed it's been shown that the fact checks don't have such an immediate, such a wide reach sometimes as a disinformation because they attract less engagement. However, in our research, we have shown that indeed, if a fact check is published that is debunking certain content, then it does influence the spread, because the platforms tend to work, well, those platforms that tend to work with fact checkers will take this into account and may not necessarily delete the content, but will restrict its reach. So soon after, let's say on platforms like Facebook, after one of the fact checkers have flagged something, you do see cases where the reach of that content is reduced, and that's where you see the benefits. It's not universal, but there are benefits, so it's definitely worth doing.
Okay, and the last question until now, with the speed of advances in generative models, how can detection systems keep up?
Yes, that's a great question. I mean, the answer is it's an arms race out there. So we have a case where indeed new models come up every few months, if not every month, and therefore we need to continue improving these tools at the same time. And it's expensive thing to do because we have to collect the examples of content generated with these tools. We have to then adapt our models, improve them to that specific new generative model, and so on. So yeah, it is an arms race, and veraAI will provide what it can before it ends, which is thankfully over a year from now. And in the meantime, we'll continue to seek funding for follow-up so that we can continue to improve the detection models. I mean, ideally, what you want also to do is to have the companies that are developing these generative models put in place better safeguards to help prevent their misuse, and make it harder for the creation of such kind of cheap bot farms and so on. But again, that's beyond our control, in the same way in which we can't control what the platforms do with synthetic images or synthetic videos on and their reach. However, yes, it's hopefully there will be some pressure also on the creators of such models to take more effective steps to prevent their misuse, so that this arms race becomes a little bit more balanced. Because what you have to remember is that, of course, these generative models, if we take just ChatGPT as an example, and any other model from OpenAI, these are, they're costing millions just to train. And at the same time, let's say the latest, I think the latest OpenAI model was estimated to have cost $63 million. And the funding that we get in veraAI is, I think, 5 or 6 million euros. I don't have the figure in front of me exactly, but let's say 6 million if we're generous. And so this is the issue. Our budget is 10 times smaller, and therefore, you know, and this is just for one company we're talking about. So yeah, it's a very difficult arms race to win, but we just have to keep trying.
Indeed, it does not seem balanced. So some of them will be faster in the race. Okay, so I don't see any other questions, and I could take just a few more minutes to remind you about our upcoming webinars before we close. So next week on the 4th of July, we have a webinar about disinformation hitting companies, safeguards for brand reputation and protection, with Rafi Mendelssohn from Seabra. And after this, the next webinar is on the 11th of July, and it's about the findings from uncovering a new FIMI operation, which involves pro-Russian content. You will also receive a questionnaire to rate this webinar, so feel free to suggest topics for future webinars or anything else you might want to share with us. Last but not least, you may have already seen the program of our upcoming conference in October. I would like to add that on the second day of the conference, we will organize a project networking lunch. It will be open to all EU projects to meet with peers, discuss ongoing research, and develop new collaborations. So that's it. We can now close this webinar. Thank you, Kalina, for the excellent presentation. And thank you all for participating and being here today.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a real pleasure.
I'm wishing you a good afternoon or day ahead. And bye-bye.